kick it off here with 2020 in focus. Former Vice President and 2020 Democratic presidential hopeful Joe Biden making his first campaign stop in Pennsylvania yesterday. He spoke to union members about the economy. Watch this.
The country wasn't built by Wall Street bankers, CEOs, and hedge fund managers. It was built by you. It was built by the great American middle class. The American middle class was built by unions. The stock market is roaring, but you don't feel it. There was a $2 trillion tax cut last year. Did you feel it? Did you get anything from it? Of course not. Now the only people benefited when a company does well are the CEOs and the shareholders, the people at the top. The only people who get hurt when a company gets hit by hard times are workers. It's a one-way street these days.
Politics. President Trump was quick to fire back on Twitter. He said this right after that speech. Pittsburgh jobless rate hits lowest point since the early 1970s, maybe even better than that. And Sleepy Joe just had his first rally there. Fact is, every economic aspect of our country is the best it has ever been. Joining me right now is former Clinton advisor, Stagwell Group president, managing partner, Mark Penn. Mark, it's great to see you.
Good morning.
What do you think about this? I mean, it is true that the tax cut plan actually lowered rates for all income levels. So can Joe Biden get away with saying these kinds of things in the face of such a strong economy when all income levels actually did feel it?
Well, let's remember what Joe Biden is doing now. He's in a Democratic primary sending a message to Democrats: I can take Trump on in Trump country. I can get cheering voters talking about in the Midwest right at the core. So it really doesn't matter whether what he said is absolutely true, somewhat true, untrue. He's going to show that he could go right to the heart of Trump's support base. And remember, it's so much easier to believe a negative than a positive these days.
Yeah, maybe, but I mean, you do need some honesty in this stuff. Liz Peek wrote a great piece yesterday, and she says this: Biden's dishonest campaign launch is not the way to win back disaffected Democrats. That he should be more honest, writes Liz Peek at The Hill.
Well, look, I think the Trump administration has done a poor job of communicating where the new jobs are. There was an article just yesterday that most of the new jobs have been for women and right there in the working class sweet spot of the need of jobs in America. But I don't think that's been well communicated at all. Yeah. I think, in fact, there's a communication deficit, and I think Biden's taking advantage of it. And he's been a pretty strong campaigner. He's no Sleepy Joe so far.
Yeah, okay. Let me ask you about the immigration issue and the crisis going on at the border. We had the chance to go to the border of El Paso Sunday. The Pentagon is sending more than 300 additional troops to the southern border. The troops will help monitor the welfare of individuals in the custody of U.S. Customs and Border Patrol. This coming as the president is ordering an asylum overhaul. That would include a new fee for applicants and faster legal process. We were doing a ride along the border. That's those pictures yesterday to actually see what's taking place. And it is real. People are just crossing over, coming into the U.S. and then disappearing.
Well, I think the new numbers are staggering. I think if you got 100,000 people intercepted, that's at a rate of over 1 million people a year coming across the porous border. Again, when I ask people on our Harvard-Harris poll, how many people do you think are coming across the border, they answer about 10% of the reality. So again, what's reality? What's being communicated? At 100,000 a month, that's going to be more likely to be seen as a crisis in America that's going to require action.
Yeah, I think this is such an important point because people don't recognize what's going on here, and the laws that are in the books right now force the U.S. to either detain people for 20 days and then put them back into the population or, basically keep them here. I mean, that's what the laws. So, I mean, I don't know if you think we're going to get any immigration law changes.
Well, as you know, the public has wanted a compromise. They have wanted to have strong borders and action for DACA and compassion to people who are here. But so far, Congress and the president have been unable to agree.
They are fighting, and it's getting worse. The president late yesterday, filed a lawsuit against Deutsche Bank and Capital One, his banks. The president is attempting to block the release of his business records, which are the target of congressional subpoenas. What's your take here?
I'm extremely concerned when the tools of law enforcement are used to persecute individuals rather than to prosecute known crimes. I think it's a worrisome trend. I think if people are going to do this, there's going to be payback on the other side, and I don't think it's right.
Well, I feel like this is sort of tit for tat, because over the last year, the Republicans were asking for all these documents from the Democrats to try to prove that the FBI put their finger on the scale during the 2016 election, and the Democrats sat on documents, and now the president is saying, I'm not really seeing any of my documents to you.
Well, it's one thing to go after documents about the FBI. That's legitimate oversight. It's another thing to go and ask for Deutsche Bank for 10 years of financial records of the president, his entire family, and all his business interests. Come on, that's politically motivated, and everybody knows that.
And there's no evidence to prove there was any wrongdoing. They just want the documents so that they can find something, hoping to find some.
Well, it's a fishing expedition, and we don't believe in that in American jurisprudence.
Well, it's happening. There's a real fishing expedition going on.
That's why, for the last 2 years, I've spoken out against that.
And you say,
stop it.
But you say you're concerned for what?
I'm concerned that if we're going to use the legislative powers and even like an attorney generalship to go after individuals that we don't like politically, that it's really going to ruin our democratic system.
Yeah, Mark.
I think, if we don't like people, vote them out.
Yeah, you've been great on this subject. Mark, thank you.
Thank you.
Great to see you. Mark Penn joining us here.